this meeting. Um, and we have kind of a sad meeting today. Um, Richard Leal, who was a great Rotarian, a great guy, passed away last night. And we all are going to have to support Joan and pray for her and Richard's families as we go through a very difficult time. Paul Strong um, essentially represented us to Joan for the last few days during the very tough time. And Paul, I would ask you to just share with us.
Is a new Rotarian.
Ah,
Okay.
welcome.
So Paul, how did it go?
Well, I had the pleasure of communicating some with Joan the last few days. If probably you don't all know that I have a background in palliative care. The last 3 years of my work as an internist, I actually specialized in palliative care and became board certified in it. And started the first palliative care program in Montgomery, Alabama, which was at my hospital, Jackson Hospital. And I thought it was a good way to end my career to help people at the end of their lives. And so with that experience, I called Joan or texted her and offered help. And she called me back and eagerly accepted. She invited me. Actually, I told her that I would like to go see Richard, and I was going to meet her over there yesterday. And she said, "Well, let me just come and get you, and let's go over together." And I offered to pick her up, but she said no, she would rather drive. So I had the opportunity to spend, some time with her, driving across and then coming back, and also in Richard's room. And Richard was seemingly unconscious and breathing fairly shallowly, but vital signs were stable and all. And he seemed to respond a little bit when spoken to by opening his eyes just a little bit, although he couldn't nod answers to questions. And he also responded when Joan tried to wet his mouth with a sponge by clamping his mouth shut. He seemed to enjoy having her rub some liquid on his lips, but he didn't want anybody getting in her mouth. And we found out later that a nurse had been coming in with a suction machine and doing a little bit of suctioning in his mouth, and he didn't like it. So he was able to have that sort of rational response to stimulation. And so we made the assumption, as one always should with somebody, even if they're in a coma, that they can hear, because we know that people have awakened from comas and reported hearing lots of stuff. So we talked with him, and I told him that we had been talking about him at Rotary meetings, and that everybody from Rotary missed him being able to come to the meetings, and that we would all miss him when he was gone. And I told him that I would too. And Joan thought that he was comforted by that. So, as I told Joan, there's no predicting how long somebody like that in his state will live. He could die that night, or he could be alive a week from now. And she called me last night about 9, saying the nurses had called her and told her that his temperature had spiked to 104 degrees and that his blood pressure had dropped to 60. and his breathing was very shallow. His oxygenation level had dropped precipitously, and it looked like he was going to die. And I told her that it sure sounded like that to me too. And I appreciated her calling me, let me know. And then she sent me an email a few minutes later saying that indeed he had died. And then I texted her again this morning and told her that I knew she was, you know, probably physically and emotionally exhausted, but that people from Rotary would want to know what she would want in terms of gifts or whatever. So she called me back and said that.
Terry's going to the fireplace.
I'm sorry?
The outside by himself. So when you're done.
And she said that they were not going to have a service. They weren't going to have a funeral. She was going to the funeral home over there to make arrangements this afternoon to have him cremated. And that the plan was to have a memorial service for him when the COVID epidemic has waned and it would be permissible to have such a service. And all that would be announced at the time. And I asked her about flowers, and she said, no, there's no reason to send flowers. And that she would get with the family and they would decide on a charity that they would like for contributions to be made to. And she asked in particular about Rotary charities, and I promised that I would send her information about that. So there is a division in the foundation that's particularly for people to make contributions in honor of people, I think, when they die. I will get all the information about that and send it to her.
Paul, thank you so much for representing the club. I will make sure I get a card and we'll send that to Joan on behalf of the membership. Yep. And we'll wait for this period to pass, and we look forward to joining the memorial service whenever it is announced. Bill Murphy is kind of special among us in that Richard was kind of a big brother to Bill, and they kind of took a liking to one another and spent a lot of time off campus, if you will, together. So Bill, why don't you share with us some of your experiences and memories of Richard?
Okay, well, I'll keep it brief. Anyway, my biggest memory of Richard was the stories. I mean, he told the same story probably 15 times, but every time he told it, I had to laugh again, you know. And he was an interesting man. He lived in London during World War II. He was 6 or 7 years old, and he could remember in great detail the bombing of London. And he described a lot of things that he saw and experiences he had that were is living history type of thing to hear him talk. And it was the only time that he was ever really very serious about anything. Then he would launch into that. He'd go right from that to talking about his father, who apparently was an even bigger character than Richard. And so I always enjoyed talking to Richard about that. He was a good, kind spirit. Like all of us, Richard, had his ways, and sometimes, particularly when his hearing left him, which I can certainly relate to, it was a little hard to communicate with him sometimes. But hey, that was just Richard, and we had the pleasure of having lunch with him and Joan just a couple of days before he was hospitalized. So that was my last real interaction with Richard. But I can tell you, he was a little confused, and he was not doing well at all. But he told me the story about his father and his wedding one more time, and I laughed again like I always do. And we were outside at Don Valerio's eating, and it got time to leave, and he kept telling Joan he wanted one more beer. Again, just like Richard. So that was my last real memory of Richard. And that's the one I'm going to remember.
Thank you, Bill.
Hey, Bill Payne and
Yes.
all, if I could, sorry, I'm a little bit late. I had trouble with my wireless router. Does anybody have, or can they forward a picture of Richard to me? I would appreciate it. And does anyone know when Richard came to the United States?
Chuck, I believe it was 1988, but I could be off on that. I'm not.
Didn't he come in from Canada, Bill?
No, he's originally from England. He was.
Yeah, but I thought he came by way of Canada.
No, he came, the company that he worked for, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was a company that dealt in pumps and specialized piping and things, mainly for nuclear reactors. And Richard was doing real well with them, and the company president came to him and said, I want you to, I need you to move. I want you to move to Manhattan and open up an office for us there. And so that's how Richard got here. But one of the funny things he told me was that when his boss told him Manhattan, he just thought that was, someplace in New York State. He said he had no idea it was New York City. And so, and there's a hours-long story after that. But no, I think it was in 1988, and he came straight here from the London area.
Hey, Chuck,
Okay,
what we'll do, Chuck, we'll see what we can do about a picture.
all right.
We certainly don't want to disturb Joan right now, but
No.
we'll figure it out.
Just a matter of information. When he came here, I got to know him very well because we were neighbors, went over in Bay Ridge before we both came to Bay Creek. So I've known him for about 25 years. But when he first moved here, he was his first wife, Carol, and she subsequently passed away from cancer. And so it was after that he got to meet Joan. And so it's been quite a road for him.
Thank you. Well, we have a new Rotarian who's not really a new Rotarian. He's a new Cape Charles Rotarian, Jim Rich. I want you all to welcome Jim Rich. And I thank you for not putting a black marble in the box when we put Jim up for membership. Jim, we're delighted to have you join with us. And maybe you can share 2 or 3 words with the membership.
Is this where you wanted me to start? I was born on.
No. That's another. You've got 30 seconds. Jim, you've got 30 seconds. You've got 30 seconds.
Well, my wife and I retired down here in March with the COVID lockdown. We've owned a place in the Fairways at Bay Creek for about 4 years. But we were really just amateur retirees. We turned pro in March. And since then, I've been volunteering for the Eastern Shore Post. This week, I get to cover the rocket launch. So I'll be in the bunker at Wallops Island when the Antares launch rocket takes off. It's currently scheduled for Thursday night about 9:30 p.m. Who knows? It's already been delayed once. It could be delayed again. But when next you all see me, my eyebrows are singed, you'll know why.
Hey guys, we have another comedian in the club. So
Jim,
welcome, Jim.
I'm glad
And,
you brought that up, Jim. I've been wanting to get up to Wallops Island and watch a rocket launch, and I always miss them. I see them the day after on the news, and I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to try and be there.
Good.
You can see him pretty well, just from Cape Charles.
Yeah, actually, the last one that went up to supply the space station, I saw it on the news that it just launched, and I went out on my front porch and I could see the contrails going up in the sky.
Okay, Terry Flynn is our guest speaker today. Terry had stomach virus yesterday.
Oh, no.
He promised me he would show up today, and I told him he didn't have to be here for about maybe another 10 minutes. So if Terry doesn't make it, we're going to ask Jackie to tell us all about, that's the way it works, Jackie. Sometimes you have to come on in a hurry. Tell us all about the voting system. Why are you laughing, John? Okay, some quick
I
announcements.
managed to vote this year without seeing Jackie. I don't know how that happened. I felt really lonely. But anyway, I saw Joanne Fitchett, so that kind of made my day. It was okay.
Okay, October 10th and 11th. How many have signed up?
Oh, yeah.
I will be signing up, Bill. I haven't yet, but I will be.
That'll be great, Chuck. And if we can get one more person or another person to sign up, we're gonna have, it's on, Jim, on October 10th and 11th, I know you've been out of pocket. We're having RLI online and some of the Cape Charles Rotarians are going to participate. Okay, get your flu shot. Becky, where is the drive-in for a flu shot?
At Mark's office.
At Mark's office, what day?
October 5th.
October 5th? If
From
you,
like 1 to 5.
1 to 5, drive-through in Cape Charles. Remember,
We have to call in and make an appointment?
No,
I think there's gonna be
No?
a long line,
no,
Stanley.
you just show up.
No, October 5th, huh?
Okay, I think that's Terry in the waiting room.
Y'all should be saving your money for my present. My birthday is on the 9th.
We don't do that, Jackie. Jackie's new to Rotary.
Everybody gets $5,
Jackie's no longer the newest kid on the block, but we're gonna work hard at getting another new kid, so. Okay, if you still have a couple of dollars left, send it to the campaign for Yes for Northampton Schools. Terry Flynn is still looking. Terry, is that you online there?
Yes, it is.
Well,
Hello.
we're happy to have you. We've been talking about you. I wasn't sure that you'd make it, but I had Jackie teed up to talk in your stead. So we won't have to do that now. We have you in person. And I was about to announce once again that you are looking for 2 volunteers to help for parking on November 3rd. And we'll keep asking until someone says, yeah, that's the right thing to do. We need to help Terry out.
All right. Well, thanks for that, Bill. And you know, Jackie probably could have just as good answers as I do, but I'm not gonna ask about birthday presents. I heard about that. I guess you guys were doing the raffle, but make sure you do take care of Jackie.
Okay, we sure will. Robert, are you there on the phone? Maybe he's not. Okay. Randy, do you want to share with the membership what you plan to do with regard to Happy Dollars?
Sure. It's been now 2 quarters of accumulated Happy Dollar pledges, and it's about time we do something about collecting. So, what I'm going to do when I prepare the second quarter dues invoices for those who have participated in Happy Dollars, and the good news is it's 25 members, most of whom attend the Zoom meetings, have contributed. There'll be a line item, the invoice for the Happy Dollar balance. So that way everybody, anyone that has a commitment can take care of it with a single check. And then I guess because COVID is going to stick with us, we'll just start over again, keeping track of Happy Dollars. As long as we do Happy Dollars. So I think that's the simplest way to do it, and it'll keep the balance from continuing to accumulate to some fairly significant areas for some individuals. The pledges range from like $1 to over $150. So
That's Burtis. Burtis must be close to $200.
now I didn't want to point him out specific.
Second mortgage time.
We're going to be able to finance it for him and great yet, but it's good.
Okay. Thank you, Randy. I appreciate that. Stanley, what happened to your handsome grandchild there? You're muted.
He's off eating his lunch or attempting to eat.
I'm sorry we weren't able to acknowledge him just then, but it was the early part of the program. But
Well, he's a shy guy. He doesn't like to. It takes him a while to get warm up.
Yeah, and especially with this group. Okay, we're at the point in the program where should I get down on my knees? Would that help?
What?
We're looking for a president-elect. And so far,
the artist to twist arms, break legs, whatever's needed.
Jackie,
I'll pay their happy dollar fee if they get in, whatever it is. Well, I'm paying mine.
Hey, John, you must love Paul. He always calls you out.
Paul has no sense of humor. You notice that he's a downer. You know, he's just a downer. You know, he can't help it. You know.
Hey, John, just to let you know what's happening here, John Burtis has a committee to find a president-elect, my successor, and he's working on it. But Paul always yells out, you know, John has which is a little unfair, but I can live with it. But you know, one of the smartest guys in our club is Bill Murphy, and Bill and I
Really?
probably talk more.
Who told you that? Bill Murphy told you that.
No, let me tell you, Bill is one smart guy, and I spent a lot of time.
He did fix our crab cake things. He made one great invention. So.
Yeah, I know. Bless his heart, right? Yeah.
Hey, but Murphy came up with an idea the other day that I'd like everybody, and this is serious now. I've got my serious face on.
Oh.
Murphy said, Bill, you know, maybe the reluctance is everybody's, you know, got a lot of things going and they think they might not be able to handle the presidency alone. And I've been thinking about maybe we should have maybe co-presidents. Maybe two people pick up the job, work together as a team. We work as a team anyway. I mean, I'm a joke as the president. If we didn't have Paul, if we didn't have Randy, if we didn't have Chuck and about a half duck, if we didn't have Meddy, if we didn't have Regina, if we didn't have Reggie, we get nothing done. And if we didn't have Stanley bringing in new members, you know, we'd be in a terrible fix. So the president is just a name on the roster because we work as a team. There are about 8 or 10 people that work with hand signals, winks. They keep this thing going. So maybe we might have one name on the piece of paper, 2 people that either run every other meeting, but work something out where they don't feel it's all on them. They're working with a partner, kind of a co-president. Now, Rotary doesn't have in its bylaws this co-president thing that Murphy thought up. Oh, Paul, do they?
Well, there's the president-elect, which, I think that they ought to take on, they're supposed to take on the duties of scheduling the speakers, which is a big job. And that's something that you're doing now. And that's
Well, Mary's doing that for us now. I forgot.
Mary doing it.
So, the work is spread out all over the place. But if you don't think you'd like to be the president, think about getting together with somebody you're comfortable with and say, look, why don't we do this thing together? Something to think about. Okay. And every week we're going to talk about this. I'm not going away. I am going away. Come the end of June, I'm gone. Yeah, Bill?
Well, one other thing, Bill, too, this is in the district. I know on one of the governor's district calls recently, we talked about just that very thing, clubs rotating people through the chairs and getting presidents. And so she asked for ideas. And one or two actually of the clubs had the idea of co-president that you and I talked about. And one club, I think was up around Richmond, also named 4 individual people for the year. They each one did it for 1 quarter. And of course, that can make a lot of complications, but it is a way to do it. And the official sort of Rotary position on it is, no, you have to have a named president. But what the understood way of doing it is somebody stands up and says, okay, I'm the guy that went to Pets, I'm the president of record, but I know after this quarter or however often, somebody else is going to be the acting president or the one to conduct the meetings and what have you. So it's not anything that Rotary would officially condone if you ask them, but it's another one of those, there's no Rotary police thing. So it's just something else to consider. I mean, if you can't find one person, it's going to be hard to find 4. I realize that, but it is a way to look at it if all else fails. And it would require a change to our bylaws at the very least to make that happen. But anyway, it's just something we can consider.
Did you hear that, Paul?
How would you handle going to Pets?
One lady or one guy goes?
One person. Yeah.
No.
Let's just say, Stanley, it was you and I, and I'd say, okay, Stanley, I'll do it the first half of the year if you go to Pets. Okay, you go to Pets on all the Rotary records. You're the club president, but I'm doing your presidential job for the first half year for however long.
That's good.
That's the way the other clubs are doing it. I was really somewhat surprised, but that's been happening for a while in different places. And I asked the governor how she personally felt about that, and she didn't have a problem with it.
So, we can figure this thing out. So something else to think about. You're not on your own. And it's not really fair that I have all the fun for 1 year. Share the fun.
Well, can I ask a question?
Yes, absolutely,
The
Betty.
president-elect automatically moves as president the following year. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then is Mary taking place as president?
No, Mary was the president-elect for a while until her personal situation.
Yeah, so who is our president-elect now?
We don't have one. That's what we're looking for.
So that's what we need to elect, a president-elect.
Yes. What do you think, Betty?
Well, I think that there's no need to change the structure in having two or more presidents, because it's just going to confuse the matter. I think that we can agree that the president, if unable to exercise some of the duties, can ask the other officers to take over, just like the way that the government of the US is structured, that if the president cannot serve the vice president, and then the speaker of the house, etc., down the line.
And that works, because I think when John Burtis was president, I probably got a call about every 3rd week. Bill, I'm in court. The dog is sick. So, and that happened.
I get haircuts too.
And that's what I was talking about, Mehdi. We support one another. If I can't make a meeting, Murphy will be there, or Stanley will be there, Paul will be there in a nanosecond. So if you were to consider being president-elect, you've got a team of backup people you wouldn't believe. So sleep on that.
Put all the hits thing, yes, yes.
Enough said. Enough said. Let this rest now and move on to. I'm not even going to ask about awards committee chair because I just know I'm talking to myself on that one. But I will ask, who called a buddy last week?
Well, I emailed one.
I know somebody who contacted their buddy. Paul contacted Betty. Betty was out there on the beach somewhere in the islands. But Paul let her know that everything was well in Cape Charles. All right, enough. We've got Terry in the wings. It's not fair for him. Terry is a former Rotarian, so he kind of knows about all this nonsense.
Are we skipping Happy Dollars?
I'm going to skip Happy Dollars. I'm not happy. We lost a good friend, and I just don't feel like celebrating. If somebody has a particular happy thing they want to talk about, Paul, do you have a happy dollar?
Yeah, I'll make it quick. Ginger and I went and got our shingles vaccination.
Hold on. We've got to make a good impression for Jim.
We got our shingles vaccination yesterday morning, so I'll give a happy dollar for that. It was quite easy. You just call Rayfields. They apparently have a fair amount of it in stock now, and you got to get a prescription from your doctor, and then you just go in and they let them know in advance. You come in the next morning, and they give it to you.
Okay, well, Paul broke the ice there. If anybody else would like to, John?
Bill, I got to add to my total before he sends the bill out. I'm going to give 10, 5 for Richard. Enough said. Everybody loved Richard. I've been in contact with Joan too. I want to give $5 too for Terry and tell you a quick story about my voting experience. I've been on a crash course lately of tearing up telephones. Don't ask me why, but I've broken 3 in about 2 weeks. I've never done that in my life. So, but one thing made me feel better when I was voting. A lady was in line behind me and she backed up to the water fountain in the hall outside the voting area and basically looked like she wet her pants. And she was like our age, most of our age. And she took it really well. Said in my early days, I would have gone home, gone out in the car, would have embarrassed. It just is what it is. So she made my life feel better that people do stupid stuff all the time. I'm not the only one that does it. And she was very, I mean, she just said, I'm going in, her pants were wet. You know, it was a very odd looking thing, but it made me feel better about being a klutz. Let's put it that way.
Bill does that all the time.
I know. I've been a klutz all my, I mean, Sela's going to take everything away from me. All my toys, I'm not going to have anything to play with. It's going to be nothing.
Thanks, Jack.
How much was that in all, John? How much did you commit to this time?
I think he said $10, Paul.
I
I think it was $500.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was two $5. It was $10, right, John?
I have a happy dollar.
Yeah, Ellen.
I have a granddaughter that's getting married this Sunday and out here in Virginia. And so we're going to be going to a family wedding. And I'm going to take all the precautions necessary, but we are going ahead with the wedding. She didn't want to do
So how many happy dollars is that, Alan?
As the one, I think that was $5.
$5 from Alan.
All right.
Okay.
$500.
Oh, Meddy?
Yeah, I have voted today early and it was very good, very convenient. There isn't hardly any line, so I urge everyone to vote early.
In person.
In person, yeah. And I have nothing to prove it.
Thank you, Meddy. David has some happy dollars.
I'd like to put $10 out there at least because I'm very sad, actually. not just because of Richard's passing, but yesterday, my friend and mentor and partner in real estate, Lemoyne Cree, passed away.
Oh,
Oh, really?
Now, let me just tell you, Lemoyne is a pioneer in marketing the Eastern Shore for especially real estate purposes and for attracting new people to take an interest in our community. And to lose him is so painful. I can hardly quantify it because he opened his arms to me over 30 years ago when I came knocking on the door to move up here. And he was the only real estate practitioner on the Eastern Shore who would welcome me. All the others slammed their doors in my face and didn't want me coming up and doing any business here. But Lemoyne was just a wonderful, wonderful person. I've had 15 years or almost 20 years of association with Aaron. And anyway, I just want you all to know that we've lost another amazing person here in our community. He's not a Rotarian, but I got to tell you, I know there's a number of you here in the club that admire Lemoyne like I do, and I'm sure are saddened to hear the news of his passing. So there'll be a private ceremony, a private funeral gathering of the family. And that's about it right now, but the news is too soon to me to divulge anything else. So, but thank you for your patience. I appreciate you letting me express this.
Dave, I'd like to add to that, if you don't mind. I'd like to add $5 to my happy dollars because it was Lemoyne Cree and his wife that sold us our initial property on the Eastern Shore 32 years ago in 1988. And so it's because of him and his wife that we are here today. And so I'm sorry to hear about Lemoyne. He certainly had a significant role in our introduction to the Eastern Shore.
and David, I'd like to just add that I had that same experience with Lemoyne in that he embraced me when we first met. I remember having coffee for about 45 minutes with Lemoyne, where he just welcomed me and his family, Montaigne, his wife. They are beautiful people. So we're going to miss them. It's kind of a sad day. All right.
Hey, Bill.
Yes.
Did you just spend some happy dollars?
No, well, if I have to, I'll throw in 5. Paul, I'm going to get you. I was just kind of tagging along there.
Hey, you can mute him, you know. You can do that for all of us. Just mute him.
God, it doesn't pay to be a nice guy around here. Okay, Terry, Terry, welcome and thank you for joining us. If you would, Terry is our county's registrar, a former Rotarian, the father of a young man who can pole vault higher than anybody in Virginia. So Terry, tell us a little bit about the upcoming election, and then we might have a few questions for you. Terry? We don't hear you, Terry.
I had the mute on. Okay, I was reminded to do that. So, hello, Rotary Club. It's really nice to speak to you again. This is very disorienting for me because usually I get to see everybody. I'm at home myself taking another sick day, getting over a little stomach virus that my other son brought home from high school. So we're just being safe and maybe making sure nobody gets sick. So I hope you can hear me. If you're having trouble, just ask me to repeat myself. I do want to also, I love hearing about everybody's voting experience. Bill Murphy and his wife are out. They were the first voters to actually show up for our in-person voting that started on the Friday the 18th. So I do want to give them a shout out. They were actually first in line at about, what, Bill, about 8 o'clock?
Yeah, it was right about 8 o'clock, Terry. And then if you remember, that delightful young lady of 102 came up right behind us, and we actually let her go first. You remember that?
Oh, I do. I was going to mention that. You know, she's made a stir. She, we took her picture. We put it on Facebook. My wife's the coordinator, you know, for all the social platforms on the county. And then it got picked up by Linwood Lewis. And then they kind of got fessed around Virginia. So that was kind of neat. And that was a great way to start voting, because that's just how we want to start it with, you know, she's been voting in person for as long as I can remember. She always drives her white truck up to come vote in person. So it's always neat to see her like that. But yeah, so we're doing in-person voting now. Our numbers have been strong. First 3 or 4 days, we went over about 130, 140 people. We're starting to kind of, I guess the big rush is over. We're starting to see only like 75 people yesterday from what I went into office a little bit today, and I looked, you know, I was just asking about the numbers and everything. So if you have not voted yet, the in-person in our office is a really great opportunity to come vote in person. Watch your ballot get put in the machine, and if you can avoid a line, and even our lines aren't very bad, it might take you 10 minutes. So we're encouraging people to do that. We love to see people out at the polling places, but right now with COVID and everything else, early voting seems to make a lot of sense to folks. So that's kind of what we're doing. We're going to be early voting October 24th and the 31st. Those are Saturdays. We'll be open 9 to 5. And then the 31st is when we end early voting and we get ready for everybody coming into the polls on November 3rd. So believe it or not, I mean, we are just, as far as I'm concerned, about 3 or 4 or 5 weeks away, and it's crunch time. So there's a lot of information out there, some of it not very good. So does anybody have any concerns, like things you've seen on the news that you'd like me to clear up?
Well, not a concern, but could you give me an address where we do go to do our early voting?
Sure. We're the easiest way I can explain it. We are in the old courthouse building up in Eastville. If you go to turn like you're going to the big courthouse down on the end of the hill, down the hill as we say, you're going to park like you were going, if you've ever been to the Eastville Inn for something, park like you go there. You'll see signs. We are that walkway right next to the garden, the garden that they're doing behind the Eastville Inn. So we can see that garden. So come on up. You'll see signs. There's political signs too. We don't think it's very hard to miss. Does that help out?
Okay, I know where you're talking about.
Yeah, and then if you come in, I mean, we have signs. We have our doors open actually during voting, so we're real easy to find once you get in the building. Wear a mask and bring an ID.
Terry.
Okay, Terry, I do have a quick question. That is, our daughter arrives this week from Saudi Arabia, as I've mentioned to you before, and she's going to be in the month of October. Is there any particular, are you open just on Saturdays or every day if you can come in during your office hours to vote?
Oh, yeah, no, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And,
okay.
and those additional Saturday hours, I should have been more
clear. I see. Okay, so is there a better time? Do you have lines that form at this point?
I was in there a little bit today. It seems like in the morning, right as we open at 9, it's steady. There may be 3 or 4 people coming in groups. Usually by about 10:30, it seems to kind of stream off some lunch. The best shot is if you come in around 2 in the afternoon. That's a pretty most people that have, you know, come out early have already gone, and that's a pretty good time to come. I don't see the lines that forming after too much. You know, that not since the first day or two.
Thank you.
Terry,
Yep.
Get a vote.
is there any, is there anything,
Hello.
is there any news on people voting by mail?
Well, the other part of our absentee is a vote by mail. We sent out, I think at this point we sent out, I think close to 2,000 mailed ballots. We have been getting them in. I mean, daily we go to the mailbox, and I have to bring a box to take them home in. The mail works. Please tell people not to distrust the mail service. I spoke to a lady today whose mother lives with her sister in Cape Charles. So mom was down in Texas with the other daughter, and she wanted to mail her ballot back to her sister in Cape Charles to bring it to our office. And I said, why don't you just put it in the mail at that point? I mean, if it's going to go to Cape Charles, it'll come to us. And I guess she had seen these stories on the, you know, in the news about mail ending up in ditches and stuff like that. And I just really want to stress, I don't see anything like that happening. Not in Northampton. That's something that I guess it happened out in, was it not Minnesota, Wisconsin or something? But our mail is very regular. We've been getting lots of ballots through. We track ballots very well. So we know what's coming in. So please don't be afraid just to mail that ballot in if that's the best thing for you to do. You can also take that ballot and instead of just dropping it in the mail, you can walk in and hand it to somebody in our office as a drop-in. It's usually me or Liz that takes them because we're the ones who process them and get them into the right spots. But very safe. The mail has been pretty good, and it's really a good thing for folks. You know, some people can't even get into the office, so it really helps out a lot of our people who are homebound at this time.
Terry, you hear that in many states, the mail-in ballots are kept and not counted until Election Day.
Yes.
Am I correct in assuming that that's not the case in Virginia?
In Virginia, well, we call it tabulated. We work with a word called tabulated, which means no votes are really counted until 7 o'clock at night. What we're doing is that when people come in to vote, their ballot goes directly into the voting machine. Right. It reads the ballot, but it doesn't really create a count yet or a tabulation. We'll take the ballots that come in through the mail. We log those in, and we will begin to process those before Election Day. On Election Day, they will be fed into the same machine that the people are using for the in-person. And then at the end of the night, we press the button, and all the votes get counted. And we press that button the same time that the 5 precincts, in the county press them. So you're right that we don't put those ballots in, but they are in. We process them. We log you in. We log it when it comes in. We log that envelope and the ballot in, and then we securely keep that until we take them up to the cap. And this is all absentee. Everything gets processed through what we call the central absentee precinct, or the cap. So just like in other years. I mean, we're doing the same thing. The only thing that we're really doing different this year, in-person voting has just been made easier because you don't have to fill out an application, and it just saves people time. But the ballots they all go into the same machine, right? I mean, that's probably the easiest way to say it. Yes, sir.
Let me ask you a question. Let's say, for instance, I know if I came and voted in person and I accidentally checked off both candidates for President of the United States, it would be kicked out, and it would be a spoiled ballot. I'd be issued another ballot to get it corrected, and then it would be counted. If the same thing happens with a mail-in ballot, if somebody mails in their ballot, it gets there the day before Election Day, and you don't tabulate it until Election Day, what happens to that person's vote?
That's a good one. Well, our machines are programmed to read race by race. So if somebody if we call that an overvote, where you vote for 2 candidates instead of 1.
Right.
Sometimes people vote for 3. So what we do live is if we see that, we'll ask the voter to vote. The ballot actually does, we call it, it's kicked out of the machine. We get a little piece of tape out of the machine that says overvote, and it gives us the race, like overvote U.S. Senate or overvote whatever. And then we just simply ask the voter. We don't try to look at the ballot. We say, is this how you want it to cast your ballot? And if the voter can say yes or no. If it says no, we void that one and give them a new ballot. If we get that in the hello.
How do you ask the voter when that's by mail? The voter's not there.
Well, that's the thing. With a mailed-in ballot, we can't ask the voter. So what we do is that's what the voter wanted to do. So we can override that one race, but the rest of the ballot gets counted.
Okay. Well, my point is, you don't get a do-over when you make a mistake on a mail-in ballot. You do get a do-over.
No, you really don't. No, and that's why we're just, when we send out mail-in ballots, we really encourage people to read all the directions and to really look that ballot over before they send it back. If you make a mistake on a mail-in ballot and you need a new ballot, okay, so I'm checking things off and I realized I went out of the lines a little too far. If you need, we can get you another ballot to replace that one that we'd have to void. But you have to do that before you mail it in. You're right. If you mail it in, there's no way for us to fix a ballot error.
What if you send a mail-in ballot a month ahead? There is some error on it that would allow it to be avoided.
Well, we don't.
Can you follow that? I know you can follow your ballot online to see what the status is. Is there a chance to come in and fix it then?
Well, it's kind of 2 different things. We're now able for this election to what we call cure the absentee ballot. So if we notice a mistake on that outside envelope, which some people do make mistakes on, and that does limit their voting, we can't vote and we have to reject it if there's a mistake. Now we look at that outside envelope, and anything we see that what we will call a deficiency, we contact the voter and we give that voter. The voter has till Friday at noon. That Friday after the election to fix that. But once that ballot is sealed in envelope B, that does not get opened until we process it on election day. So anything on the outside that would prevent you from voting, we can fix. But really just, we're asking voters just to be really careful and look over their ballot and, make sure that it's what they want before they vote it. Just like you do in the precincts too. Only this time there's no remedy for fixing it.
Well, what do you do with the paper ballots after they're tabulated?
So all the paper ballots that we tabulate, we literally, Dave, we pack them up and we send them to Tracy Johnson at the clerk of court for 2 years because it's a federal election. So they stay in Tracy's secure office for 2 years. And usually any contest, any kind of thing that we'd have to go back and look at after 2 years, everything's over. And then they just get destroyed like any other document that Tracy has.
I have a follow-up question, Terry.
Go ahead.
You said that a minute ago that you don't open the inside envelope until election day. But
Correct.
I also thought I heard earlier that when you get a mail-in ballot, it's processed and put into the machine as soon as you can when you get it.
No. The in-persons are in the machine. We process it, meaning that we get it, we go into our Vera system and note that the day it was returned, how it was returned, and that the voter marked something. So that voter can't come back and try to vote in person. But no, that envelope doesn't get open. And so what happens is in the cap, once we clear all the envelopes and we say these are the votes that we can count, we open the envelope just like with a letter opener, and then we shake it into a container. So we don't ever see the person's name associated with the ballot. So we shake it into a container where, so the envelope, and then we get until the envelope's empty. And then once we get whatever, I guess thousands of ballots in that container and everybody's ballot becomes anonymous, then we put them in the machine. So even if we got a bad ballot and one kicked out, we could never identify the voter at that point because we just don't know whose it was.
So you will put them in the machine before election day then?
No. We'll put them in. Our CAP team comes in at about noon, and we'll be feeding with 2,000 ballots. We're hoping they start real early and start feeding them into the machine. But right at 7, when all the ballots are in, we still have to wait till 7, just like any other precinct, to look at our results.
Okay.
See, the problem is if we started feeding them in now, the results, you know, we don't really want to know what the results are, obviously. So it just gives us better voter privacy and a better election security to do that on election day.
My understanding is just what you've been saying all along, Terry. And I'll point out that in New Jersey this past summer during their primaries, there was a 10% spoilage of ballots that were received. Something was wrong with ballots. They forgot to sign them. They voted,
right.
They were voted. They forgot something or other, but they were wrong. 10%. Doesn't sound like much, but the expectation is there'll be 170 million votes this go round. 10% of that is 17 million votes that would be spoiled if that same 10% holds. And I just want people to be aware of that when you vote by mail. You really do need to be careful. And if you're not, then you're going to be part of that 10%.
Well, in Virginia now, like I said, most of those ones that are disqualified are disqualified for a deficiency when you fill out the envelope B, which is your privacy envelope.
Well,
this election, we have 3 days to contact the voter to let them know that they did something wrong, and then they can fix it if they want their vote counted. So we do have a workaround for that 10%. Like I said, once we get and it goes in the machine, it's getting counted. And even if it kicks back for a voter error about one race, it gets counted for all the other races. And that's really where you want to be careful these days, is just to make sure you're inside the box and you get who you want.
I hate to dominate the questioning, but we've got our mail-in ballots here. We already applied online. But then a friend who's politically active said, well, you're better off just taking that ballot to the courthouse and turning it in and saying, no, I'm not going to use that, and then vote on the machine, because that will save poll workers some time on election day of having to put it in the machine then. Is there any validity to that?
No, actually that'll gum us up, as I like to say. It's not a very scientific word, but that would really gum us up on the polling day and when you turn that in. What we're asking voters to do, if you have a mail-in ballot, and like I said, you're unsure of the system or the mailing, fill the ballot out, fill out envelope B, put it in the return envelope, and you can hand that to us in person. And once that's in our possession, you can be sure that ballot's going to be counted. We open the ballot, we open the envelope up, make sure you did envelope B correctly while you're standing there in case something you need to fix. And then, like I said, that ballot and that everything goes in a secure lockup until election day. So your politically operative friend is kind of really not helping us out a little bit. We do not really want people to get one ballot through the mail and then say, well, I'm just going to go vote in person anyway. That, first of all, that ballot we sent you, it doesn't sound like a lot personally, but that's $3 at least to send that ballot to you. And then to redo your whole time, we'd have to put you through the system again. It just kind of gums us up. If you're worried about it, bring your mailed-in ballot. You can fill it out in front of us, or not in front of us. You can fill it out there and then hand it to us. It's the same thing as walking over and putting it in the machine. We do understand that some people have concerns about what happens to their ballot, but once it's in our possession, it's going to get voted. It's going to get counted.
Okay, Randy, that'll be the last question.
Okay. Is in-person voting available at a vehicle for an individual?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's one of our favorite. Yes, sir. We do a curbside. We call that a curbside. It's for anybody that wants to come up and vote in person but does not want to get out of the car. So the best thing to do is bring a helper and have your helper or have the helper, you may be the helper, bring the ID of the person who wants to vote into the office. We'll check that person in. It's one of my favorite things to do. So if I'm there and I'm available, I usually go out to the car and help the voter. And then it all gets voted through. The other thing you can do is just call us. There's a spot that you can park in. And if you just call our office at 678-0480, and we know there's somebody out there, we can go out and help that voter. But yeah, curbsides they're kind of my favorite thing to do. So, you know, we offer that service very happily.
Mm-hmm.
She's out there.
Okay.
Okay. Well, hey, Terry, thanks for joining us. And if we have any follow-up questions, just get to me and I'll get to Terry and we'll get an answer for you. So
okay.
We'll
yeah, that's
consider
great.
this
You can. I'm sorry, Bill. You guys can email me too, and our address is at the. We have it just about everywhere, but if you go to our website, our address, it's vote@co.northampton.va.us. I get questions every day through the email, and I'm happy to answer them. And before I go, I do want to ask, we have a very tough parking situation at Johnson's United Methodist up on Bayside Road in District 4. And I know the Rotary, I've helped out on a couple parking assignments. I know you guys park probably the best on the shore. So especially in the morning, if we could get some help just helping people get, you know, we draw lines and we try to get people parked right, but people don't really always listen to us. But if we could get some help in the morning and maybe even in the afternoon on that crunch time, like 4 to 7, that would really help us out. So think about it if you want to do it, and then you can tell Bill, and then he can get up with me. But we'd really appreciate it.
I'll help.
Oh, okay. We've got one already, Terry, and I think we have.
Who's that?
Oh, we got two. Stanley. Stanley, I told you you're going to be working that day, so we'll see.
Give Stanley a little time to come help us out too.
That's
we got Jim. Our North St. Charles Rotarian. So you're covered. One way or the other, you're going to be covered.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. That really helps out. That's one of our biggest headaches. We will have deputies, as far as I know, at every polling place. But if we can have help with the parking, that just saves our people, and now they can go help voters instead of parking cars. So that's awesome. Thanks, everybody.
You got it. Thank you, Terry.
All right, Rotary Club, thanks. It was great talking to you. I'll see you at the polls, and come see us early if you want to do that.
Okay.
Thank you,
So
Terry.
with regard to what we think, say, and do, 1, is it the truth? 2, is it fair to all concerned? 3, will it build better friendships? 4, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And Stanley.
Will we have fun?
I'll miss that.
Hey, Bill. Hey, Bill.
Yeah.
I canceled my first leaf.
You cancel what?
My first leaf.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
So you're back to JIT. Okay, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah.